Let's address a historical misconception. Afghanistan has never defeated any major superpower on its own. The Soviet Union would have likely wiped Afghanistan off the map if it hadn't been for substantial military aid from the United States. Let's not forget the USSR pulled out of Afghanistan due to internal economic issues, particularly the oil crisis in the 1980s, induced in part by American economic warfare. And while the USSR ultimately collapsed due to economic turmoil, it's important to acknowledge that Afghanistan's resistance, even with US aid, wouldn't have stood a chance against the full force of the Soviet war machine if those economic problems hadn't existed. Fast forward to 2001, during the US invasion of Afghanistan, the situation was different. The US had no real intention of destroying Afghanistan. There was no Cold War, no looming communist threat as there had been during the Soviet era. The primary reason for the invasion was to keep the American military-industrial complex running. This wasn't about occupation or annihilation. It was about sustaining military operations for economic reasons. It's naive to think that Afghanistan's guerrilla forces, armed with AKs, RPGs, Stingers and some oil-funded support from the Middle East, could defeat superpower militaries. Be it the United States, Russia, NATO or the USSR, all these forces had the capacity to wipe Afghanistan off the map if they truly wanted to. Believing that ragtag militias could stand against such powers is a misunderstanding of global geopolitics. The reality is, superpowers can decimate smaller nations when they're willing to pay the price. But there are often bigger political and economic considerations at play.